Hi. I know you don't want to hear from me. You really want to hear from these guys. So the faster we get quiet, the faster they will start talking. So I think that if you're a brand that wants to be sold in retail, and gosh, I really assume most of you have that goal, this next panel is probably some of the best subject matter experts you could hope to hear from. For some of you, you may already have a relationship with these companies, but you want to expand that further. And for others, these may represent entirely new possible partners for you. But either way, there's one key step that you're probably going to face if you achieve that goal, and that's a launch. And how that kickoff goes can set the tone for how you work together and if this relationship continues to grow and deepen. Now, before I introduce our awesome panelists, a little information about format. You are welcome to submit questions via text, tweet, email. It's at the bottom of the agendas. I believe it might also be on the back of your badges. But then also we'll be taking Q&A from the audience. So feel free to go either way. If you have a burning question right then and there, I will try to keep that in mind. So here to share how to be a success and avoid pitfalls during this process is our esteemed panel of Bentley Hall, the CEO of Good Eggs. We have Jason Kralakowski, who's the Global Senior Merchant for Candy and Functional Snacks at Whole Foods. Then we have Heidi Traore. No, tell me one more time. Traore. Who is the Business Development Manager at National Co+op Grocers. And then finally, Katie Paul, who's the VP of Category Management and Growth Solutions at KeHE. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. This is a pretty killer panel and lineup of you guys. So while many of you may be familiar faces, I'd love to have you introduce yourselves and explain kind of what your job entails and who you are here with.
I can go first. I spoke on a panel this morning, so I'll be brief, but I'm Bentley Hall. I'm the CEO of Good Eggs. I've been scaling food companies that are purpose-driven for 15 years. So 11 of that is building CPG brands from the earliest stages. In the last 4 years, I've been running Good Eggs, which is an online grocer based in the Bay Area.
Jason Krolakowski. The folks that know me in this room know me by JK. I am the senior merchant for candy and functional snacks at Whole Foods. My job is essentially the CEO of those categories at Whole Foods. So P&L responsibility, assortment, pricing, merchandising, the overall strategy for those categories at Whole Foods.
And JK, can you explain what brands are kind of in those or what fits into those categories?
Yeah, I mean, confection, we have some of them in the house. There's my Lily's friends back there. Functional snacks is an amalgam of nuts and seeds, trail mix, dried fruits, plant-based snacks, and jerky. So Rhythm Superfoods, also in the house. Hi, Scott. They're within plant-based snacks, solely fruit jerky, Vienna, Saffron Road, wonderful pistachios. The list goes on and on and on. So it's a behemoth.
Got it.
Awesome. Hi, everybody, and thank you. I'd like to thank NOSH for having me here. I'm really excited to be on this panel and share information with you all. I am with National Co+op Grocers. We are a organization of 148 natural products retail food co-ops with over 200 retail locations in 37 states. My role as a business development manager is in the new and emerging brand space. So I help brands understand who NCG is, what a cooperative is, how we differ from other retailers, and I also help people understand how to work with us. So I'm kind of like your pre to our category managers. I help you understand about us so that by the time you get to our category managers, you can have a really good, thoughtful conversation about planning your business together. Been in the natural product space since the late 1980s, and I absolutely love this industry.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Katie Paul. I'm with KeHE Distributors. For those of you that don't know who KeHE is, we're a natural, organic, fresh distributor. We distribute about 70,000 items to about 40,000 doors across the U.S. throughout our 16 distribution centers. I lead our category management and growth solutions functions at KeHE. So our category management team is our supplier-facing team, working hand in hand with the emerging brands that are sitting in this room today, helping them with their go-to-market strategies and making sure that we have the right portfolio to support our retail partners. And then our growth solutions team is our retailer-facing category management team. They work hand in hand with our retailers during category reviews, providing them with assortment recommendations, insights, merchandising, and product information.
I do just want to quickly say that we have some open seats in the middle here, especially if you're by yourself. We've got about 2 in every row and then a couple more there. So don't be afraid to walk in front, take a seat, grab a spot, whatever works for you. And Katie, just going back to something we've touched upon in our previous conversations, your role is a little new at KeHE. Why was, where was the opportunity that you guys identified for your type of position?
Yeah, so our strategy as a company has changed in the past year since I've joined the team and started leading both the growth solutions and the category management team now. And where we find the white space is we want to kind of be a next generation distributor partner. And part of that is really focusing back on niche products, emerging brands, startups, small brands that we want to kind of handhold. We notice that there's a white space in terms of navigating distribution in general and navigating KeHE as a whole. So we're really putting an emphasis on educating our supplier partners, partnering with them at a different level, providing them with high visibility, high touch, and making sure that they're ready to go to market through us to our retail partners. So since we've expanded our category management team and have really put more emphasis on being that partner.
Okay, great. So now, why would they want to partner with you for their launch, whether that's launching into you as a new retail channel, or maybe you're just the first retailer that they've gone into, for any of you guys? Heidi, how about you?
Sure, okay. Well, I think a brand would want to launch with us. Our consumer base are dedicated natural products food shoppers who are highly educated in the natural products space. And so we find that our shoppers are some of the most committed shoppers in the country because of a certain percentage of the shoppers that shop in co-ops actually hold ownership in that store that they're shopping in. So they it can be a testing ground for you if you're not quite to the broad launch level. It can be a testing ground for you to test out in that early space with committed natural product shoppers to kind of understand how your product's going to perform. Yeah.
And I think with respect to Whole Foods, I think we're still uniquely positioned to help cultivate brands from a very early stage. With our hub and spoke model, we can literally start you out in one store in a region, and then we can grow you up from there. You can get all the doors in that region. Then you can spool up to 2 regions. Then you get 3 regions, and then you become a global brand, at which point you would be now speaking with me. And I think the beauty within that is there are so many learnings that a lot of these brands garner with growing up through our hub and spoke model that has so much applicability to what they will need to do to perform at a high level once they get to being a global brand within Whole Foods architecture.
Ours is easy too. I mean, we are focused on small, medium-sized brands. So we have thousands of those brands as a business, and that's actually our specialty. And so we are partners, like I mentioned earlier, in telling the story that you have, of figuring out how you go to market. And in particular, where we have dense penetration in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's actually probably no more cost-effective way for you to get to our customer and to tell your story than just do it with us. One other note on the partnership front, which we think about all the time with our suppliers, we actually, for new brands, we multiple times have looked at the SKUs they're launching. So maybe there's 8 flavors you want to launch. We will try all 8 flavors for a 1 or 2 month period and actually share that data back with you on which 3 or 4 were the best ones before you try to go national, before you go to try to go to other brands. And for those of you who are in the smaller, less than 10 million revenue stage, that info, you know how valuable it is to actually get purchase data instead of tests or consumer insights. We've done that with a ton of brands. And that means they're more likely to succeed, and they're more likely to see us as a key partner for future interesting products they launch.
What's the ratio of kind of new brands who are entering retail for the first time versus sort of established brands that you guys are dealing with?
I mean, I can start with that one. I think, so for us, we carry about 70,000 SKUs, like I said, and any given year, we're bringing on 15 to 17,000 new items into that portfolio, and of course, divesting in similar amount. So when you think about that turnover and all of that innovation that's going through our distribution centers, it's a pretty high percentage of new and small emerging brands.
I think for us, it's probably about, 80 to 20%. I think 20% of what's coming through our category managers into NCG co-ops are new brands. 80% are more existing.
At Whole Foods, it all depends on the category. I think others they're positioned better to really highlight local, which is kind of the platform that we use to bring new and emerging brands along. So it all depends on the category. When I think about my world, I get so many new and upcoming brands sending me things every single day. If you guys could see just my dedicated sample room, it would blow your mind. So
It kind of seems like Willy Wonka's playground. I'm going to
it
be
really
honest.
is. And that's the fun of it. That's the beauty of it. As we look to continue to elevate local, we're always constantly on the search for those new up-and-coming brands that are going to become the Sietes of the world. New Primal won an award today. They grew up literally in one store in Charleston, South Carolina. That is the tale of success at Whole Foods, and that's where it all starts for us.
And you mentioned New Primal. I think they're a great example in that they launch a lot of their products in Whole Foods, test them, iterate, and then roll out into future stores. So talk to me about how folks can use Whole Foods as a testing ground.
Yeah, I think the beauty about our organization and our merchants, I'm one of many, and we want all of our brands to succeed in a really powerful way. And I think we are so involved, whether it's on the innovation side, on packaging design, on pricing strategy, on promo strategy, we are so involved that we give these brands such a great shot at their products succeeding, not at Whole Foods, but then being able to spool that up and take it to other retailers with all the learnings that they get from a Whole Foods launch.
We're 60-70% small emerging brands. I think the average brand for us, we probably make up 20 to 35% of their revenue. We actually like dedicated partnerships like that, and we love brands that are going to be able to double every year with us at least, while still maintaining that relative mix. So we want them to be able to scale with us.
And so how much of your jobs or your category managers' jobs are processing brands that are coming to you? Or are you guys also proactively going out and saying, hey, we really need to build out this set, or we see consumers really interested in collagen, we need to find more SKUs that target this one trend? Because I feel like you guys get a lot of inbound inquiry to all of you.
Yeah, I can start with that. From a distributor standpoint, it's a little bit different. In the past, distributors have been a little bit more reactive, and KeHE is one of those from our retailer partner standpoint. So about 60% of brands that were coming to us were requests from our retailers wanting them to be in our portfolio. And then about 40% was our category team, foraging for those products on their own, whether that be at shows or events or with incubators and accelerators or however they are finding out about those brands. And since with the expansion of the team, that's kind of teetering a little bit, right? KeHE's, we're foraging in a little bit different way. We're going out to international shows more and things like that. So it's becoming a little bit more us going out, being a little bit more proactive with that. But kind of everything comes in as an inquiry, whether it be from the brands or from the retailers. So we're really trying to transition that a little bit.
And for us, partially why my role was created at NCG was to kind of help manage that inbound coming into NCG, to help provide a filter that would take it to the category managers, because our category managers are also busy doing other things, looking at their categories, determining strategy. So we're all doing procurement. I help bring that into our category managers, and we do work on a category review schedule. So category managers may look at an item early in the process, outside of the calendar, determine whether or not they want to move forward with it, and then if they want to move forward with it, it's going to be a highly innovative brand. It may be something where they tell the brand to come back at the review time and look at it during review time. So category managers, what percentage of their job, but like Katie said, like JK said, there's so many brands coming to us and that are interested in working with us. It's just been explosive. So helping to take some of that relief off the category managers' plates. It's quite honestly hard for me to quantify how much time that actually takes, because we did add my role into NCG for the category managers.
And just before you guys answer that, just for folks coming in, we have a couple seats here in this middle group. Feel free to walk to the front, take a seat. There's two right in the middle. You'll be so close. You can just throw your product on that. No, please don't do that.
Gently throw.
Gently,
Yeah.
lob, maybe. Bentley, how about you?
We're probably 50-50. I mean, twice a year we look at classic category reviews, like I mentioned, and we are looking at all inbound inquiries and trying to make that as efficient as possible to get to the top ones. I think great products are often hunted for and found as opposed to knocking on our door. The benefit of being deep in a core local geography, though, is if you're a baker, if you're a meat producer, if you're a CPG brand in the area, we probably know you because it's a pretty small world in the Bay Area food scene. But we'll come knocking on your door.
And I think for us, it's a really healthy mix of the inbound, which I spoke to, which is immense at times and somewhat overwhelming. But part of our job, and I think, again, what makes Whole Foods still really unique is we are merchants at heart. So you'll see us at all of the shows. We're going overseas a lot more often to see what the new and hottest trends are, whether it's from a product standpoint, a packaging standpoint. And we still have our local foragers in all the regions that are finding these new things that, frankly, we don't have the bandwidth to always go find and see. And that just creates this unbelievable pipeline of there's always new things that are kind of in our innovation hamper that we're just waiting to unleash. We like to think that we're first and fast with a lot of the trends that you see in the industry. So yes, we're already thinking about what the newest thing is going to be in 2022, for instance. Like, we're already game planning for what that's going to be. So yes, we work very far out in advance on things like that.
How do you make sure you're nailing trends and not fads then? And because if you think of something now, how do you know it's still going to be there and popular in 2022?
We have an awesome team that helps substantiate kind of what our gut is telling us at Whole Foods, which is incredibly important. They're out in market constantly. They're overseas constantly. They're seeing things that are kind of like lower on the trend curve, but they're still at that point where they're starting to bubble up to the surface. But yeah, I mean, fads are going to happen, and our consumer is still going to look for us to latch onto those things if it's trending in the industry. Keto is huge right now. Whether that stands the test of time, that's TBD, but we have latched onto that in a big way. And I think that's just one example of we've placed a little bit of a bet on ketogenic products, and we'll wait and see how that actually pans out in the future, if that's a long-term thing or just a flash in the pan for a couple of years.
Not to keep asking you questions, but just to follow up, if keto is a flash in the pan, what happens to all those brands that are on shelf that have launched with you and really built out their business with you?
I think the good ones will still find a way to innovate that is authentic to them, and bring their consumer along for whatever that next step of their evolution is. So yeah, I'm confident that if keto is a flash in the pan, that those brands will still find a way to maintain their consumer at Whole Foods.
Great. So it sounds like all of you guys are very busy and talking to a lot of folks. How does a brand stand out? If they want to launch in your channel or with KeHE, how do they get your attention? Heidi, how about you?
So I think, for a brand to stand out, for us, it's probably a lot of what you've already heard at these types of conferences before, but it's really understanding what your unique factors are. What are you bringing to the table? Are you bringing certifications? Are you bringing a unique form of packaging? Are you bringing a pricing advantage? So that kind of thing. For us, our shoppers tend to skew more towards organic, fair trade, non-GMO, non-bioengineered, those types of products. So the products that have more of those certs, heavier in the certs, but are not way off on pricing, it's understanding your total strategy. And it's really great if you can come to the table and kind of already understand a little bit about the retail game, understand channel strategy, right? And then understand the dynamics within the channels. If you're gonna launch at Walmart and then you're coming over to natural, what does that mean? How are those channels gonna play with one another? So having a really great idea of your retail strategy when coming in with your business plan, and then for us, really it's those certs and really understanding, the shopper, the type of shopper that we cater to and how your product fits into that profile.
Bentley, how about you?
For me, taste is pretty important as a food business. I think it's often put at the back of the stack on things that emerging brands want to do. So it's got to taste great, and it's got to actually be thoughtful about how it sources ingredients. And then beyond that, we need a brand who can articulate a clear point of view that is thoughtful and that is compelling and that is differentiated in the category and do it really well. And if it's hard for you to do that with a buyer or a retailer in 30 seconds, it's going to be super hard to do that when you're on our digital shelf or on a traditional retail shelf. So it's like, why does somebody care, and why do they have to try you right now? And to the extent that you've nailed that within your category, we're gonna be jumping up and down to bring you in the store. And if you can't, it's probably a quick no until you figure out the next iteration, and maybe we'll try again.
I guess my 2 cents is I think a lot of great points were just made, but understanding not only the retail landscape, whether it's channel strategy, e-com, what have you, but having a really great understanding of not only your consumer, but how that's going to apply, from my lens, how that's going to apply to the Whole Foods consumer. Everything that we try to do, it starts with them, and we try to work backwards from that. So the folks that get in front of me and have a really good understanding of who their core consumer is, what their value proposition is to that consumer, and how they're going to take that strategy, those learnings, then apply it to the Whole Foods consumer. If you have a really good understanding of all of those things, I will be very, very impressed, and it'll get you very ahead in the game with me.
It's tough to add on to that, but I think the only other thing that I'd mention is it is about the consumer, and I think the consumer today is looking at a brand's personality and wants to understand the brand. So what does your Instagram look like? Simple things. What does your social media look like? Who are you as a brand, and are you remaining true to who you are as a brand? What is that personality? Is it a hip, cool personality that brands understand? Are you doing something from a mission standpoint that might resonate with those consumers? Because they are looking for brands that are going above and beyond selling their products. So I think to your point, it's a lot about the consumer and kind of what they're looking for and how your story aligns with that.
So one question that we got submitted was, if you're an emerging brand and you want to be in Good Eggs or Whole Foods or any of your platforms, what happens if you miss category review? What's your advice? Should you wait and hold off for the next one? Should you move on to the next brand or the next retailer that you want to partner with? Like, how do you balance category review schedules with your own, growth needs?
I can start with this one because distributor is a little bit different. We have an annual category review schedule that goes out to our retailer partners, but from a supplier standpoint, we're bringing on new items constantly. So there's no missing a category review schedule per se. So I would say continue to talk to your category managers at distributors and make sure that you're getting your brand out there in front of them.
Do you have advice for brands if they really want to be in a retailer and they miss that category review with one of your partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times more of our retailers are moving towards cut-ins than they ever have, and maybe a little bit away from the strict category review schedules. So there's still opportunity outside of that. In addition to that, I mean, if you add up the independents that we do business with, which most independents don't necessarily have a category review schedule, that's our third largest customer. So there's a whole pool of, retailers that you can get into off-cycle category reviews.
Yeah, and it's similar at Whole Foods. Typically category managers have 2 reviews a year. Those are obviously our big times of the year when we're going to touch the assortments. But if you do happen to miss one, or if a product launch is delayed for whatever reason, the production didn't go as well, the packaging was late, you didn't print enough packaging, you misshipped UNFI for our ecosystem, those things happen. We're doing off-cycle cut-ins, to your point. We're doing them every single month. So missing the category review isn't the end of the world.
Okay, great. So when a brand successfully connects with you, you guys agree, great, let's put you in stores. Katie, in your case, when you're partnering with a brand to help them launch in stores, what are some mistakes that you see brands make that you're like, oh, if you guys could just do this differently, you'd be so much better off? Bentley, any ideas?
Oh, what could brands do differently? It kind of comes back to my first point. If your product's great and you can tell a really clear story, your product's going to do quite fine. Maybe the thing I see most often is actually it's a one-way monologue about your brand as opposed to a dialogue. To the extent you can make it a dialogue and actually understand how important a core category is to a retailer, who their customer is, you're just going to get to a better place. So if anything, whether it's a big inbox or a huge snack room, I want a huge snack room. I don't have one. Have a dialogue and make sure they're people too, the buyers. And if you know what they're trying to achieve and you're trying to get them promoted and you're trying to please their customer, category windows are going to be less relevant than if you don't know the answers to those questions.
I think this happens for a lot of brands that are emerging, but they get so excited about all of the fun things that make our jobs fun, innovating, packaging design, line extensions, the list goes on, but if everyone could just be operationally sound, all of the little details, it's
just a tiny thing.
They are not the sexy things that bring a product to shelf, but it is the nuts and bolts that get a product to shelf. Again, are you doing a proper line trial? How did that go? Did you run packaging? Did you buy enough film? Yes, you made enough to do the first ship to Whole Foods. What does your safety stock situation looks like if the product hits shelves and it's a massive hit right out of the gates? The worst thing that you could happen that derails a launch is you get the product to shelf, we blow out of it in a few weeks, and you didn't make enough to kind of backfill that demand, and that stops the flywheel. So just having operationally sound practices and having line of sight for how you're going to execute your product launches is absolutely crucial to obviously it being a success, and we see those pitfalls happen a lot.
+1.
I think what I'd like to add to that also is sales expertise. Sales expertise is really important. You could have a really awesome plan laid out, everything ready to go into retail, and then you're hiring your sales force. We'll see sometimes when a brand has that perfect picture going in, but then doesn't necessarily have the right sales representation, things fall through the crack. So even if you have great sales folks, follow through with your sales folks to make sure that those objectives that you set are happening. Understand the retailer timelines, understand what it takes to hit those timelines so that you can get that activity that you want at retail. So that and a sales rep, sales organization that understands those components of how to work with the retailer and can represent you really well to the retailer, knows how to talk the retailer language, are really important as well.
And the only other thing that I would add is I think the biggest mistake we see is brands want to be everything to everyone. When we ask the question, what's your primary placement in store? Where would you merchandise your products? Wherever the retailer will put me. It's, no, have a strategy of where you actually want to be on shelf. So don't be everything to everyone. And And back to your point, Heidi, about channel strategy, for us, it would be, okay, what does a launch plan look like at KeHE? I want to be in all your stores. No, you can't be everything to everyone. So really having kind of like that strategy in place prior to coming to probably any of us.
That reminds me of one more. Yeah, if you're going to help push people to that retail store or that brand, that's really valuable. So you think for us, we're direct to consumer, we do same day delivery. So you can start sending people who want to try your product directly to Good Eggs to try it. That's an additional bonus. It's icing on the cake. That's going to make us want to support you more. And every retailer, I think, feels that way. But
We had a question come in. If you think about a brand that you were really excited about, and you were like, this brand is going to just be amazing, but they just failed to get there and just couldn't make it onto launch or onto the platform or into your retailers, what was something that held them back? Like, when do you see that happening? Oh, this is a tough one, whoever submitted this one.
It feels like maybe coming too early, not necessarily having all of the pieces in place and understanding how the components fit together, right? Entrepreneurs, innovators tend to get super excited and just want to push through, go fast. But it's that thoughtful path and relying on whether you have an advisory council, advisory panel, the folks or coming to conferences like this, really understanding the expertise, taking that expertise and moving forward with it.
Yeah, I would second that. I think the people behind your brand or behind the brands that maybe didn't succeed weren't the right people, whether that be investors or accelerator programs or brokers or your advisory and that type of thing. It's the people behind the brand, because entrepreneurs, you guys are all so excited and want to go to market quick and things like that, and your people will help you get there.
I just have one other quick one. I think step one is getting on the retail shelves, and there's like 99 other steps after that. So I think continue to iterate on price, on packaging, on messaging, on titles, on promotions. Like, keep on trying a ton of things until your product is moving 2-3 times faster than the category, and maybe that's closer to the beyond step 50. Don't just stop once you get it in the door.
And we've had a couple questions around communication. Who do you want to be pitching you brands? Is it founders, brokers, VPs of sales? And then how much communication, like after you say, great, I want to take you on shelf, we're going to launch you, who do you want to be in communication with you, and how often do you want to be talking to these folks?
I think at first, for me, I like to meet the founders. I think having brand authenticity and really understanding their story is super critical to everything that we do at Whole Foods. So I think the initial contact, I prefer to have it be with the founder. And then from there, I want to interact with the entire team. I want to have a good understanding of who I need to go to, whether it's sales, ops. I want to interact with all of those folks, have a relationship with them. From my lens, the best partnerships that I have are the folks that I can go to at any time, whether it's, hey, I need you to step up on this promotion. I need you to cover off this need state that no one else can do. Those back and forth relationships are so unbelievably important, and it's critical that you have relationships with all of those people within these organizations to make that happen.
How about you guys? Who are you often talking to, or who do you want to be talking to?
I like talking to founders, but if you're highly competent and low ego and you have a great product, that'll work too.
So if you're a founder with a big ego and not competent,
Don't talk to me.
Okay.
So I think for us, for our category managers, of course, we always love to talk to the founders because that is where you get that passion, you get that direct story. Once that initial is over, we actually work really well with the broker network. Brokers work really well for us, but we also want to have a direct relationship with your sales manager, whether it's your regional manager that's managing our business or your national sales manager that's managing our business. Because if for those instances where the broker has not followed through and done their job, we want to have a direct relationship with the brand as well.
Yeah, and I'd second everything everyone said. The only other thing that I would mention about brokers specifically is from a headquarter perspective at KeHE, there are about 9 brokers, headquarter brokers, that make up about 80% of our business. They know how to work with us. They know what paperwork needs to be put in. They know how to communicate with our category managers, and we're in constant communication with them from a meeting standpoint and everything else. So I would say that the broker partnership is really important from a distributor standpoint.
So my last question for you guys is that a theme today that's been coming up a lot is the moment of discovery, whether that's Shark Tank or influencers. And for you guys, retailers are often that moment of discovery, or at KeHE are enabling that moment of discovery. So how do brands make, if you launch into a store, how do you make the best use of making sure that that's impactful? Is there anything they can do around messaging, marketing, social media, getting the word out, kind of, that you've seen be particularly effective?
I'll jump in with one. For us, we have such a tight focus on our core customer, as I mentioned earlier, that it's really easy for us to do sampling. Like by default, you've already gotten a filtered customer base. And if you want to launch a new product and ship in a couple pallets to us and drop them in a bunch of orders, and most of our customers order every week for a week, there's probably actually no better like low-cost sampling. And if your product is really good, that's a really worthwhile spend. And so instead of talking about it or having amazing imagery or stories, which I believe in, like get the product in people's hands, and we happen to deliver it to people's doors. So that's a tactic that we as a DTC business can do that I would encourage small brands to check out.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I think one of the keys to succeeding at Whole Foods is kind of unlocking the potential of our 500 snowflakes of our stores. I mean, they're all so unique. All of the regions are so unique and cool and fun in their own way. But really, there's so much untapped potential by interacting with the regions, interacting with the store team members, doing demos, especially in conjunction with the promotion. I mean, what better billboard do you have than actually interacting with your consumer, getting the product into their hands, and screaming value at them at the same time? Demo is huge. Again, getting out into the stores. They are still the boots on the ground that make everything happen for us at Whole Foods. They are the lifeblood of what we do. So being able to make an imprint on all of those folks and have them be basically champions for your brand, it's a huge, huge advantage if you can make those connections.
I think for us, we're a little bit different, right? We are a chain of independently operated, community-owned grocery stores, and our category managers are bringing new items to our member co-ops, but today they're making decisions about what they carry on their own shelves. So one of the things that I've heard from brands that have started in a region in one of a smaller submarkets of ours and then come to the category manager is that if they can start in that smaller market and really understand our co-op retailers, and then they understand their brand, they can marry those two things together and bring that to the category manager. That's a really solid story for our category managers because they've already tested in a market. The category manager, there's data. That's the other thing. I don't want to walk away from this panel saying data. Pay attention to the data as well. Right, that's a great. If you can come to NCG with that, the category manager is going to be excited about looking at your brand.
The only other thing that I would mention, as I mentioned it earlier, is Instagram. And I listened to a podcast one time about investors, and he said the first thing he does is go to that brand's Instagram. How many followers do they have? How do their images look? That's how you're communicating to the consumer, and that's what's ultimately going to get your product off the shelf. So making sure that you're marketing yourself right in that regard. And since we've listened to that podcast, the team has been using that as kind of a means of getting to know the brand before they actually reach back out to that brand. So making sure that is spot on, I think, is so important from a consumer standpoint, getting the product off the shelf and then beyond.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys for sharing all these wonderful words of wisdom. We are going to take a quick break, and then we'll have another session in here about getting ready for investment, what you need to do from a communication standpoint, financial standpoint, and how to get prepared for that. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell.